Good morning, everybody. This is Grant Sparks of the Grant Sparks Show, and we are on episode 331. And today we're talking about how you can find and operate in your destiny, even now, right now. Oh my gosh, we already have chats. Even now, right now, in the middle of this world's devastation, you absolutely can still determine your destiny. And we're going to cover a little bit about that. We're going to be covering the decision that I've been delaying and how decisions delayed actually bite me in the butt and have bitten me in the butt right till today. We're going to be covering that and more. But what I want you to take away from today's show is that you can determine your destiny right now, even if the world seems crazy, which it does, even in the middle of the devastation out there, which there's a ton of, even in the midst of all the changes going on societally, you can still determine your destiny. We're going to be talking about this and more for today's Spark Show. Before that, morning cup of gratitude. Take 10 seconds. Tell me in the comments what you are grateful for. And I will absolutely start, because if you cannot share what you're grateful for, you're stuck. And it's not a bad thing, but it's an indication that you need to get your head together. You need to spend some time alone at a morning campfire, which is what I'm grateful for this morning. This morning, I was able to actually do a morning campfire, had a bit extra time getting ready for the show, having a quiet study time. And the thing I am most grateful for is reflection and study time. Been inspired by Wildleaf Marissa. She's been doing good campfires up at the property in North Carolina. Super pumped. We got a little bit of a fire pit here in Florida. I put it on, sat there, and studied and read and had a great time just catching back up with my soul, catching back up with my spirit, catching back up with where my good morning, Billy Weigel says gratitude. So what are you grateful for? That's what I'm grateful for. A quiet time of study to re-anchor my butt this morning. What are you grateful for? Tell me in the comments below so I can hype you. Everyone needs a hype man, and that's me. I'll give you a few seconds to share. Quick story this morning. Wildleaf Wanderer, Wildleaf Marissa says, yes. Very elongated on on Instagram. So at the gym the other day, got involved in a conversation with a teacher, Ed, that we know very well. Trust this guy. Good guy, really passionate about his students. And I asked him, as I ask everyone, about their goals and ask them about their dreams and ask them about their future. I said, hey, Ed, what's the attitude of your students about the future? And without hesitation, he said, complete and total nihilism. That's sad. Complete and total fear and nihilism of the future. I said, tell me more. There's a big problem going on in young people, but not just young people. The entire next generation of what used to be the bastion of hope and dreaming, called also the American dream. You know, I've worked in Haiti, lived in the Dominican Republic, seen the world, traveled to Vietnam, traveled to China, traveled throughout Africa and South America. And everywhere I met people, especially in the early 2000s, I would ask them about their goals and their dreams and their vision of tomorrow. And nearly to a person, they would say something like coming to America, taking care of my family, building a business. I asked this teacher, Ed, about his students today, and he said complete and total nihilism. Marissa Wildly says, grateful to have a job that I'm excited to do on a Monday morning. Please do not miss the opportunity to be excited to do your work. It is actually rare that you have a relationship with your work and your job that you're happy about. Wildleaf on Instagram says, grateful to have a job that she's excited to go and meet her people and see her people and take her scenic drive. Powerful stuff. This teacher said, these students not only have gotten messaging from their parents about how difficult money is, how they used to have a one-income home, but now they need a two-income home just to get by, how difficult it is to drop their kids off at school and the bus system's not reliable. They're seeing more than that. They're seeing their older siblings move back home because life was too expensive, too difficult, and they were underprepared. Ed goes on to tell me that even tests are a joke because the standards used to be a standard. A standard used to be, when we said the word school standard, it used to be a bar by which people would measure themselves against, and students didn't have to raise themselves to meet that bar. But standards have now been set to ensure that everyone passes, which means they go for the lowest common denominator, which means kids in the 12th grade are studying things that kids in the 7th grade used to study. And when they're sitting in class not being challenged and watching the kids who try less pass, it's disheartening to students that even tried even once for one semester or one school year. This teacher, Ed, said, there is less than no hope for their future. Now, when we were in high school, it looked difficult, but we still dreamed. When we were in college, we thought maybe we'll get a job, maybe we won't. Maybe our degree will matter, maybe it won't, but we still hoped. And even though things were tough, we still hoped. Ed said, no, they're not even thinking about college. They're literally just trying to get out of high school and figure out what next, what show to binge next, what amusement to have, because there's little to no future orientation because they don't believe there is a future. Now that's tough. That's tough. What's worse than that is in the last 2 weeks alone, I've gotten messages from my friends who work in the Canadian government, who work helping those who are struggling in Colombia, those who have worked in the humanitarian fields. And in the last 2 weeks alone, their currencies have been debased by 3% or more, which is unheard of for most currencies, unheard of. USAID has all but stopped. I worked in Haiti for over about 7 years, 6 or 7 years. And in that time, the organization to do the most good, though there was some negatives, to do the most good was still USAID. And second only to like the Peace Corps and foreign organizations that were trying to help in Haiti. These organizations are gone overnight. The world seems like it's wavering. The world seems like it's wavering, and there's a few decisions I wish I would have made. You know, they have this quote, and you've heard it 100,000 times. You know, coming back from our work in Haiti, I came away with one of several major paradigms or principles, and one that stuck with me is I should be self-sufficient at all times. And so I came back with a passion to do homesteading, and anyone who knows me and has known me for any length of time knows that I am thinking about fruit trees. I'm thinking about papaya and mango and coconuts and dates and banana trees. And I have the property here in Florida that I could do this. And it's a decision I have been delaying for years, decades even. Decades. It's embarrassing. And it reminds me of this quote. When's the best time to plant a tree? Well, the joke is 4 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? The second best time to plant a tree is today. You know, I could make this irrevocable decision to be self-sufficient, to plant a fruit tree, and actually benefit from it. I could have made that irrevocable decision 4 years ago. And then when I saw economic crisis or when I wanted to eat some healthy, organic, homegrown food, I could just go out back and pick it. But I don't have that opportunity today. Destiny, what looks like destiny, what looks like an inevitable fate, has been handed to me that I have to work more in my businesses. I have to make sure that I hustle in the capitalist system. I am not autonomous in the way I wish I would. Tony Robbins is famous for his one quote, decisions determine destiny. I'm here to encourage you for one major thing, and that is to consider the decisions you could make. Consider the decisions you could have made that could have given you an even better prospect of a future today. Right now, young people do not believe in a future, so they are not making decisions, so they are not crafting their destiny. So therefore, they are subject to someone else crafting a future. And think about the powers that be that are out there today making those decisions for them. Decisions determine destiny. And I want you to consider today setting your goals for the future, setting your course for what's next for you. I want to pose one question. I want to pose this one very important question from Tony Robbins, and it is this: how am I going to live for the next 10 years of my life? How am I going to live today in order to create the tomorrow that I am committed to? What am I going to stand for now? There's that the great quote, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. And we have seen in the world around us, a lot of people don't stand for anything, so they fall for everything. And I've been guilty in some ways of this myself. But I choose and decide today that I'm not going to be guilty of this anymore. In every corner of my life, I will make quicker decisions. Think and Grow Rich, the author Napoleon Hill wrote in Think and Grow Rich, a successful person makes decisions quickly and changes their mind, if ever, very slowly. You see, nearly any decision you make for your destiny will be good and will work for you if you actually make a decision. You see, Tony Robbins, when he talked about decisions determining destiny, what he was often saying is if you change your mind, chances are you didn't ever actually make the decision. If you don't take action, you didn't make the decision. The only metric of whether or not I actually made a committed decision to a direction in my life, starting that new book, changing where I live, growing fruit trees as I wish I did, the only metric that determines whether or not you actually made a decision is if you took action. Did you go buy the supplies for a raised bed or not? You haven't decided yet. Or did you put the money to the side? Have you taken action? Did you look up and start researching where to get good seeds or how to plant, or should you start with an adolescent? Did you start pricing fruit trees at Lowe's or Home Depot? Did you take action? The only metric is not like, well, I think I've decided to write a book. You haven't decided. If you told me I wrote the first paragraph of my book, I believe you have decided. If you told me you wrote for a week and then dropped it, you didn't actually decide. You had a whim. Consistent, progressive realization of a worthy ideal is the only way to walk into your destiny. The only way to feel like a success is if you took action. Don't just tell me that you've decided. Show me by the work of your hands, consistently, persistently doing this. I decided during COVID that I was going to start the Grant Sparks Show and never stop. I have gone through seasons where I couldn't do the show for time or inspiration, but we are on episode 331 and I ain't stopping, because the world will always seem like it's against you. And I am here to be the bastion that stands against that darkness, to tell you, no, there is a way for you, and it's within you. It's not the circumstances outside of you. It's whether or not you make an absolute determination. There are people that I have met in the Dominican Republic. I think of a young gal by the name of Genesis. And she shared her story with us quite publicly, so I don't mind sharing it with you. When I was working in the Dominican Republic, we interviewed or talked to a gal by the name of Genesis. And I was over lunch and she was serving our table. And I just asked her, hey, what's your dream? Where do you come from? And she said, I want to help other young ladies not get pulled into sex trafficking. Okay, that was very clear. And she said, my aunt sold me into the sex trade and I ended up in Europe. As a young girl, young Dominican girl, sold by her aunt, her family that was supposed to protect her, into sex trade. And she ended up in Europe as a sex slave. I'm not exaggerating. But that's not where she ended up. She made a decision. An irrevocable, come hell or high water decision to live. She decided first to escape, which she did. And then on her own, with no money, no passport, no papers, made her way from Europe back to her home country of the Dominican Republic, got a job, put her life back together, put her sense of integrity, her character together, to hold her head up high and say, no, this is my story and I'm owning it and I am helping people prevent them from having the same fate. That is someone who has made a decision. How many stories of immigrants coming to America, come hell or high water, they decided? A lot of Americans, natural-born citizens in the United States today, are seeing what's going on and falling into despair about their future. The stock market today is down 575 points before the open simply because of an announcement of tariffs. The Canadian dollar is down 3% against other currencies in the world because of what's going on in government today. People are struggling. Marissa Wildleaf says she's such an inspiration, beautiful human. And Marissa probably remembers that story with more nuance than I do. It was an old memory of when we interviewed this gal or talked to this gal at lunch in a hotel in Dominican Republic, if I recall correctly. Very inspiring person. So here's my message for you today. The world has seen darkness and challenges before. This isn't the worst of it. This is tough. And I do not want to trivialize the people who have been supported that I know by USAID, they have received good in their life and hope from things like USAID, things that are being stripped away, things like the stock market. My good buddy Aussie is up in Canada dealing with the real impacts of this at a government level. And it is devastating to the average Canadian farmer, to the average person living just over the border in America. There's going to be a lot of challenges. And I think about these young people in school with not just a little bit of hopelessness about the future, but complete and total abject hopelessness with zero future orientation and zero desire of what's going on tomorrow. I think about those young people, and I think it's up to you and me to show them a different way. So what are the few quick things you can do today that can defy the message of hopelessness? We are here to defy the message of devastation. That is what we do. If I talk about igniting lives of explosive significance, I'm talking about being a light in your world. Marissa Wildleaf has done this herself. She has taken big action. She made a decision that determined her destiny. And it's had some good outcomes and some challenging outcomes, but she's benefiting from it. And she is now becoming a light. Just go check out her content. I made a decision to do this show, come hell or high water, and create financial freedom for myself and others. So I'm digging in and doing this. I'm digging in and doing this. What decisions will you make today? And I'm here to give you a few quick pointers on how to make decisions that determine a better destiny for you and the next generation, because they need your help. And when I talk about igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own, I'm talking about you making decisions today. Here they are. Number one, last show I talked about setting goals with your annual Misogi. This is a year-defining goal. And it could be a challenge, accomplishing a marathon, or it could be simply like me. My year-defining Misogi could be planting a small grove of fruit-bearing trees in this yard throughout the year. And once I write down what those are, and those are in the ground and thriving and not dying, I will have accomplished a potential Misogi. I'm toying with starting my next book, but I think might be an even better decision to plant that grove of fruit trees. Aside from the Misogi and Kevin's rules and quarterly habits, Kevin's rules is do something new every 2 months that you've never done before with friends or loved ones. Aside from all that, and go back and see the last show we did together. Go back and check that out. This is what I want to tell you on how to take control of your destiny, how to quit feeling at the whims and the breezes and the tide and the weather of the government and people who are in control of our finances and our economy, so that you can take action today, making powerful decisions. Number one, write a list of the decisions you've been procrastinating. So I came across this over the weekend. I opened up Tony Robbins' material. I read this book, and it really struck me. I have been procrastinating a series of decisions, and I wrote down what those decisions were. They were as small as deciding what to do with my laundry, and as big as deciding whether or not I was going to spend my friend's birthday in Colombia with him and where I was going to do that. And we moved that conversation forward. Decisions. I made this list of decisions. I just opened up a Google Keep note and I wrote down, what are the decisions? Because right now I could ask you, what's your big dreams? And I've been asking Nicole this. I've been asking Amber this. I've been asking John Sierra this. We had lunch on Saturday with John Sierra Creative. Go check him out. He's a phenomenal human being. And I was asking him, what's his big dream? What's his big goal? And instead of the normal answers, which I already know a little bit about John, we started talking about an art studio and a big, an old converted warehouse shed that we have painted, whitewashed, and then start doing high art in. And that's how we want to spend the rest of our days. Why not? Self-sufficient, minimalist, just doing artwork, taking care of ourselves, letting our expression and our voice be known. I like the fact that I know that about him. And I said, why have you not made that irrevocable decision? So I came across this teaching over the weekend and I made this list. So the first step is write a list of the decisions that you feel you need to make, but you haven't made. Now, here's the thing. If you don't need to make the decision, push it out of your mind entirely. Because making a decision garners a ton of work. I forget what law it is. It's like Kudlow's Law or something like this. If you do not need to make a decision, don't make it. If it's not critical to who you are, your identity, or your sense of hope, don't make the decision. Don't even put it on the list. But if there is a decision that's important to you that you need to make, write it down. For me, it's decisions in my business. And that more accurately, it's deciding irrevocably to grow the coaching business, not passively. Now I'm going to trickle this, I'm going to trickle that. I need to make a massive decision to continue to launch the training company as soon as possible. Launch this month's goal setting workshop this month. Launch this month's community coaching call, like a little mastermind group that I'm putting together this month. It needs to begin now, today. It's on my top of my priorities. It's a decision. And what I wrote in my list of decisions I need to make is I need to decide whether or not I'm going to do this or abandon it entirely, because you can decide to not do it. And if you decide to not do it, put it out of your mind entirely. That is the decision. You aren't doing that. Remove it from your life. Remove it as an option entirely. Why? Because you have to put your energy towards good work. I wrote planting fruit trees. I wrote seeing more of the world before I can no longer do that. There are planes being turned around from other countries simply because they're from America. Now, some of it's immigration, but you never know when some of this could change overnight. I was there for 9/11 when all the planes were grounded, and international travel suddenly became very difficult for a season of time. I need to make an irrevocable decision to see the world, more of it, before I can't. I need to plant my trees. I need to invest more of my money. These are some of the decisions I wrote. Maybe you need to reconcile a relationship. Maybe you need to make yourself known. Maybe you need to part ways with a relationship. Maybe you need to move cities. Maybe you need to commit irrevocably to a diet. Maybe you need to commit irrevocably to putting certain money away. Maybe you need to commit irrevocably to quit being a complainer. What is the list of decisions you have been procrastinating that you know you need to make? And again, if you do not need to make the decision, it is not critical to your character or your destiny, put it to the side. You don't even have to think about it. Quit hemming and hawing over it. Quit circulating on it. Quit ruminating on it. Write it down on a piece of paper and throw it in the fire. I'm not even deciding this anymore. It's out of me. Purge it. But if it is critical to you, make the decision. Write it on your wall. Stick it on the calendar. And how do I know you've made a decision? It goes on the calendar. The action goes on the calendar. On Saturday, I will plant trees. Write it down. Write it down, or I'm going to call bullshit. I'm going to travel. Buy the ticket. Write it down when you're going to buy the ticket. I'll buy the ticket today. Put it on the calendar. Give it time, allocate time and energy and money, and you have made a decision. Second thing is this. Once you have written your list of decisions you need to make, act right now. Do 2 of them today. Take action on a small one, get it done. Whether it's what to do with my laundry, whether it's I got to water the plants in the building, whatever that is, write it down, take action on it today. And the second thing that you're going to take action on is a bigger project, and write down the first granular action you need to take. Whether it's I'm going to schedule time for this, whether it's I'm going to brainstorm how to accomplish this. If it's planting trees, I'm going to write down my next actionable step is to write down the trees I'm going to buy and then to go price them at Lowe's or Home Depot, and then watch a few YouTube videos on how to best, because I've tried to plant trees before and I've failed. So how to best prepare these trees for planting. How to best prepare the soil for planting. That's my next. Take action on 2 of them. So the first is to write down the list of decisions you've been procrastinating. The second is act right now on 2 of them, a simple one and a difficult one. And the third thing is this: the most powerful way to change your life is to take action. If you believe, for example, that USAID should be making an impact in a certain area that you're passionate about and USAID is gone, maybe you should take action on that thing. Take massive action. Start a website, start a nonprofit, start to raise funds for someone in that area. I have been historically passionate about Haiti. I'm not so much anymore, but I am passionate about self-sufficiency. So how am I going to take action? My fruit trees, saving money, micro-investing in places like Kiva to support other people, alternative ways to support people around the world. I'm going to take action. Are you? So the first way is to write down the list of decisions you've been procrastinating. The second way is to act on 2 of them right now. And the third way is find other ways to take massive action on everything on that list. You know, when I said that Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich wrote that a leader makes decisions quickly and changes their mind rarely, if ever, very slowly. We need you to lead. I don't care if you think it's your temperament or not. I don't care if you think it's your calling or not. The world needs you to lead by example and you making massive decisions. And he said this. He said a leader makes decisions quickly. I was interviewing a CEO and they said nearly every CEO that is successful makes decisions very quickly and insists on outcomes. The CEOs that fail are the ones that drag out their decisions and their action plans. Rapid implementation of decision making is what advances companies. And it doesn't even matter if it's the right or wrong decision. Rapid decision making allows you to determine if that decision is a good decision or a bad decision. Rapid decision making allows you to determine and learn is going to work and what's not going to work more quickly. Do not drag out your decision making. Now, big decisions need big consideration, but not in the decision to do it. In the planning of it, sure. In the implementation for big decisions, but most decisions aren't that big. Most decisions just take determination and commitment and action. Why am I saying all this? Because when the markets open today, it's going to be tough. The headlines for the next few weeks in the news are going to be tough. The attitude is going to be super aggressive and aggro. It's going to be tough. We're going to hear negative terms all over the place. And the young people today are going to get even more depressed, sad, and hopeless. I'm talking about this today because if you're watching the show, even whether it's now or whether it's in the recording later, if you heard this and you talk to someone else and you might think, maybe I'm responsible to help out a little bit, help there to be hope in the world today a bit more. We're talking about this today because the world needs you and me to not only get by, not only look out for ourselves, but to live by example. Yes, in our decision making, first and foremost for ourselves, and then in our decision making for others. The world needs people who are taking action for others in a world of hope, shaping, being a role model. Showing that you can travel the world, showing that you can become a fiercely independent person, showing that you can become financially independent, but also personally independent or interdependent, which would be even better. We need to give people the words, the language, the hope, the stories, the examples that the outside world and the conditions around us do not determine our destiny, that decisions determine destiny. But no matter what you do today, remember the mission, igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a great day.